Indianapolis, 1985. Hoosier Hardwood. The Hoosier Dome packed with 43,000 strong, and the biggest names in basketball all laced up for a game that was supposed to be all about celebration. But behind the smiles, something was bubbling beneath the surface. Michael Jordan, fresh off a gold medal in 1984 and an explosive rookie campaign with the Chicago Bulls, MJ had just signed a shoe deal with Nike. Jordan was the guy, the it guy, amongst a veteran cast of Eastern All-Stars that included Larry Bird, Dr. J. Julius Erving, and Isaiah Thomas. Many news articles suggested that Mike got iced out. Only 9 shot attempts, 7 points. To some, just a bad game. To others, a message. Or was it? Over the years, some have speculated that veterans like Isaiah Thomas and George the Iceman Gervin weren't exactly rolling out the red carpet for MJ. Others who have played in the game shared with me that MJ was just not the MJ of the 90s in 1985, and that there was actually players more senior than him that had the hot hand in that game. MJ was a rookie on an East roster that included Larry Bird, Julius Erving, Moses Malone, Isaiah Thomas, Bernard King, Robert Parrish, Sidney Moncrief, Dennis Johnson, Terry Cummings, and Bill Laimbeer. On the East side, Bird finished the game with 21 points and 8 rebounds. Dr. J had 12 points. Isaiah had 21 points and 5 assists. Moses Malone had 7 points and 12 rebounds. Bernard King came off the bench and poured in 13 points. Terry Cummings had 17 points off the bench. So, could a freeze-out even happen? Even now, decades later, the freeze-out still makes people pause. I realized just how touchy it was when I asked Dominique Wilkins about it on Scoop B Radio. People have always talked about Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, and the freeze-out game, and the All-Star game. Did you play in that All-Star game?
Yeah, I did. I'm going to stay away from that one.
Even Neek didn't want to fully touch it. I hit up 5-time All-Star Sidney Moncrief, who played in that 1985 All-Star game, and asked him straight up, did y'all freeze out Mike? When did he first hear the freeze-out rumor? First of all, what do you remember about the 1985 All-Star game?
Not a lot. I know it was Indianapolis, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I know that. I remember having a number of guests from Arkansas, friends and family, at the particular game, not more for the fellowship during the weekend than for the game itself.
Okay.
And I remember me being detached like I was for most All-Star games, a little distracted, wanting some rest as opposed to playing it in a game for the weekend. But yeah, beyond that, that's about all I remember.
Ralph Sampson, how dominant. I watched the game last week in full from the beginning to end. How dominant was he in that game? What do you remember?
Let me just tell you right now, not very much at all. Like I said, I played so many games over my career. All-Star games don't really stick out in my mind very much, and certainly individual performances don't stick out in my mind. So I don't remember. I don't remember someone being frozen out. I don't remember a conspiracy or watching the game saying, wow, he was open and they're playing buddy ball. I just don't recall any of that.
When did you first hear about freeze out being a thing? Because I feel like it was something that was crafted by writers.
Years after I played, after I retired. When I say years, I mean 10, 15, 20 years after I retired, maybe 20 years that I've heard that deal with Isaiah Thomas and Michael or some other players. Otherwise, I would have never surmised that was something that someone could think was happening based on me just watching the game. I wasn't watching it like that. But so it was maybe 20 years after I retired.
And it's interesting because when I looked at the box score, when I looked at like Magic on the West, and then I looked at and his team, and then I looked at the Eastern Conference when I looked at Dr. J and I looked at Larry Bird, to me during that time, their presence on that Eastern Conference team back then would be the equivalent of what KD and LeBron would be if they were playing on a team, and they would naturally get a ton of points, but at the same time, it's about rhythm. First of all, you say you don't remember a lot, but the defense to me is what stuck. There was more defense being played in that game. Do you remember any of that?
Well, we normally play defense in All-Star games, so that wasn't anything special. I only played in 5, but I just don't remember.
What was Michael like around you guys during that All-Star game?
I don't remember. I'm not trying to be funny. I don't know. It was back then. You really didn't have those relationships like you do now, because back then we didn't have AAU basketball. We're playing against those guys, possibly with those players from the time you were in high school, maybe junior high school in some cases. You didn't have that, which means you didn't have those close relationships other than a couple of guys, Magic and Isaiah Thomas. That was a special kind of relationship. But in general, you were pretty much on your own, isolated, and not a lot of conversations with guys. Just a normal hello, how you doing, what's going on, but not a lot of other type conversations.
This might be a stupid question, but I'm prepared to get a stupid answer. Is it at all possible that anybody could sit pregame and say and conspire plays and how someone touches the ball? Can you at all choreograph something like that?
Well, I think you could. Yeah, if you're hanging with some guys and you have this conspiracy or dislike of a certain player, you could do that in high school, junior high school, college. I'm sure you can do it in the NBA. I'm not saying it would be out of the realm of possibility that it would happen, but I just didn't sense that was happening.
Yeah, I get that sense too, honestly. When you look at Michael's stat line, he shot 2 for 9. You look on the other side with Hakeem on the Western Conference, he was also a rookie. I look at it as, again, going back to Dr. J and Larry Bird, the fact that those two were the vets, those were the stars. It was all about Celtics Sixers back then. And there was also a homecoming for Isaiah playing at Indiana, and also a homecoming for Larry Bird, him being from French Lick. It seemed to be that those were the focuses, but Isaiah also got hurt in that game.
Yes, I remember reading that after the fact, but I would have never, had someone not told me that earlier. I think I had this conversation with someone else 2 or 3 years ago. They said, well, he got hurt. I didn't know.
Moncrief kept it real. No AAU back then, no brotherhood of hoopers. You were on your own. Maybe a dap, maybe a what up, but not like today. Michael Ray Richardson, a member of the 1985 Eastern Conference All-Star team, dismissed the idea that there was any conspiracy to freeze out Michael Jordan. Drafted 4th overall by the New York Knicks in 1978, 2 picks before Larry Bird, Richardson was seen by some as the heir apparent to Walt Clyde Frazier. A flashy combo guard, he led the league in both assists and steals in just his 2nd season, becoming only the 3rd player in NBA history to accomplish that feat. He also earned 2 all-defensive team selections during his career. By the time of the 1985 All-Star Game, Richardson was playing for the then New Jersey Nets and making his 4th All-Star appearance. When I reached him by phone, Richardson told me that the idea of a Jordan freezeout was nonsense and that it was only something he heard about years later, well after the fact. Mike?
Yes, sir.
Did Isaiah Thomas conspire to hold the ball from Michael Jordan in the 1985 NBA All-Star Game?
No. You know what? I don't know where that rumor came from, but didn't anything like that happen to my knowledge.
What was Michael like as a rookie on that team?
Well, he was a rookie. He just was trying to get his feet wet. He came in just like, any other rookie, like a deer with, headlights on. You know what I mean?
Was there any interaction on the bench or on the court between Michael and Isaiah that you remember?
No. I mean, as far as I can remember, I thought that they were pretty, cordial. You know what I mean?
They were pretty what?
They was pretty cool.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like there was a problem or like a grudge or something. you know, and far as him, you know, holding the basketball for Michael Jordan, I never seen it.
When did you hear that there was this belief that there was a freeze-out game? Was it after the game? Was it years later? When did you first become aware of it?
Well, when I first heard it, it was years later. And like I said, I didn't see it.
Is it possible that Larry or Dr. J could have thought that?
No. I mean, I can understand why Isaiah would want to freeze out Michael. I just don't know why he would. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. While MJ's freeze-out is on the minds of many, this All-Star game had other returns worth remembering. French Lick's own Larry Bird, back in Indiana. That mattered. Zeke came home to Indy too, a Hoosier legend at Indiana University under Bobby Knight. But now, he was wearing Detroit blue. The game's MVP? Ralph Sampson. Not MJ, not Magic, not Bird. The 7'4" big man from the Houston Rockets made sure people remembered his name. 24 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks. Your 1985 NBA All-Star MVP. Smooth, skilled, slept on. That night, he stood tallest. Funny how history echoes, because the same MJ many believe got iced out in 1985, he gave a young Kobe Bryant a cold shoulder in 1998 at the All-Star game at Madison Square Garden. The Last Dance gave fans a glimpse of Mike sizing up Kobe, calling him that Laker boy, who just wants to take everyone one-on-one. But there was more to the story. According to Jason Williams, a teammate of MJ's in that 98 game, MJ was setting the tone from the moment they stepped in the locker room.
Mike always the loudest one in the room, right? But my dad used to say the loudest one in the room, like an empty container makes the most noise. But Mike that day was just coming in and, you know, he was going to bring it to Kobe. You know, he was coming in letting us all know, you know, he's not going to take the ball out. Because, you know, in the All-Star game, you take the ball out, you don't get it back. He was just saying, I want the ball and I want it every time. So we wasn't all that excited about it. So he was just looking to create an enemy on that basketball court to get him up to go out there and do what he got to do.
It was a passing of the torch. Kobe was coming. Mike was letting him know, not yet. And the very next game against Isaiah's Pistons after that All-Star weekend, Jordan torched the Pistons, dropped 49. Some called it a coincidence. Others called it calculated. The tension seemed to fester. The 90s arrived, and in 91, Jordan and the Bulls finally climbed the mountain, swept the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals after 3 straight years of heartbreak. But the moment that defined the rivalry came before the final buzzer. Isaiah, Lambeer, Mahorn, the Bad Boys, walked off the court, straight past MJ and the Bulls bench. No dap, no nods, no respect. Fast forward to 92, USA Basketball calls. MJ is the face, Magic and Bird co-sign, John Stockton gets the point guard nod. But one name's missing, Isaiah Thomas. Many published reports suggested that Mike made it clear, if Zeke's in, he's out. But for Zeke, the freeze, the grudge, the exile, he says he never even knew.
Honestly, until the Last Dance, I never knew there was a beef. Again, I had gone out to dinner with him. I had seen him socially, had communicated. I never knew that he felt that way about me. I have no hard feelings against anyone. And when I talk about, the greatest players, I'm only talking about it from my perspective. No slight to anyone.
In an interview with Mark Jackson in 2024, Zeke stated that Larry Bird didn't shake hands when he lost and said, up until 1991, when the Detroit Pistons got swept by the Chicago Bulls, nobody expected a handshake. After 1991, and they said Isaiah didn't shake Michael Jordan's hand. And Michael Jordan was like, oh, Isaiah didn't shake my hand? And they were crying about not getting their hand shook. That's when everybody started, after 1991, shaking hands. Was Isaiah the orchestrator? Experts have written that Zeke allegedly told teammates to limit MJ's touches. Others say that theory was blown out of proportion. But it didn't help that Jordan played for the Chicago Bulls and Thomas was from Chicago and a high school legend. And according to John Sally, the hate was manufactured.
Michael and I had the same agent, and at times he wanted me not to like Isaiah. It was a personal thing. But there's no reason for that to be like that. I just don't understand, because he is a really good guy, one of my favorite people.
And yet, the deeper you dig, the more complicated it gets. I spoke with Darren Hammond, a family friend of Isaiah's who actually lived with MJ during his early years in the league.
At that time, it was Isaiah, like I say, Magic, and Dominique Wilkins, and Mark Aguirre, and Dr. J, and Bird that was running the NBA when Michael first came in. So I don't think it was jealousy or any animosity between those players, because Michael was a rookie. He hadn't even played his first game. I think as time went on and Michael played his first two games, I think they've seen the potentials that the league was going to change.
Can you compare it to something that we've seen in the 90s and the 2000s?
No. This was unbelievable. I mean, Michael Jordan changed the whole NBA. I mean, the whole appearance, the whole style of the game. I mean, with the big shorts, with the wristband on the arm, and as time went on, he got the bald head, and and the jumping ability. He just changed the whole game of the NBA. From my opinion, as a close-up person, that was the ball boy for several years before Michael Jordan even came to the league. I had the greatest time to see all the greatest athletes play because I was working for the Bulls. But Michael Jordan was different. He was different in practice, at rookie practice.
Beef? Maybe not in 85, but the winds of change were already blowing. To some, the freeze-out was just a single game. To Mike, it may have been motivation. To Zeke, a mystery never fully explained. And to history, it was the start of a rift that even gold medals couldn't mend.
As a lifer in the NBA, would you like to see that hatchet buried?
Well, I think in time it will be. Hopefully. You hope that's the case, but in today's world, you never know.
Elite athletes at the top of their game often find motivation in the smallest things. As we saw in The Last Dance, Michael Jordan turned even the slightest of slights into fuel for his fire. Shaquille O'Neal, he was no different. For years, the Hall of Famer claimed that San Antonio Spurs legend David Robinson once refused to give him an autograph as a kid, and that snub became his personal mission statement every time they faced off on the court. But here's the twist. It wasn't true. In a 2020 interview with me on the Scoopy Radio podcast, Shaq finally came clean. The story totally made up.
That you have always been the type of person who has used something as motivation. The only person I can think of off the top of my head besides Michael who was able to do that efficiently was Rasheed Wallace. You did this interview where you talked with Ernie Johnson about David Robinson and how he motivated you. And you said you made up a story in your mind, or you said that he didn't sign something or he disregarded you, and you later said that wasn't true. You have the ultimate respect for David. Did you have to have something to motivate you in order, could you function in the NBA without having someone motivate you in that regard?
For nice guys, yes. David was just so nice and respectful. He was just a nice guy. I'm not a bully. You have to piss me off for me to get mad. David was just, hey, Shaq, how you doing? How's your family? He was just so nice. And, I'm sorry, I had to make something up. It just make me mad. And then when we're caught on, and when I get back to San Antonio and the fans start booming, I'm like, oh, y'all booing me at my home job? Well, I was the first, so it was just like a hatred thing for David and the Spurs. But it was all made up.
Motivation, storylines, the 80s, the 90s, MJ, Isaiah, the Freezeout, Ralph Sampson, the Bad Boys, the Bulls. These are more than just keywords. They represent a defining era in basketball history that continues to shape the game we know today. Many believe the Freezeout happened. From where we sit, those who actually played in the 1985 NBA All-Star Game say it's more myth than fact. But whether it was real or imagined, the impact is undeniable. Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan, two icons with complicated history, helped elevate the game to global heights. And that All-Star Weekend in 1985, it wasn't just a showcase of talent, it was the blueprint for how basketball would be marketed and consumed for decades to come. Thank you for watching the first installment of Scoopy Originals, diving into the mystery, legacy, and impact of the 1985 NBA All-Star Game. Make sure to subscribe, rate, review, and drop a comment on this YouTube video. And head over to Scoopy.com, where we've curated some of the most memorable quotes and takeaways from this mini doc just for you. Stay tuned, we're just getting started.